Read this verse last week, 1 Corinthians 15, verse 20. But now Christ is risen from the dead and has become the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. Last week, I showed a type in the story of Abraham and Isaac about the crucifixion. Because everything in the New Testament has been predicted in the Old Testament. But the resurrection was also typed in the Old Testament. And the clue to this is the word first fruits. Back in Exodus, God spoke to Moses and said, 3 times you shall keep a feast to me in the year. The first feast was the feast of unleavened bread. The second, and the feast of harvest, the first fruits of your labor, which you have sown in the field. And the third was the feast of ingathering, which is to be held in the fall. The first fruits feast is talked about more in Leviticus chapter 23. And Jehovah spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, The set feasts of Jehovah, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, these are my set feasts. 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th is a Sabbath of solemn rest. These are the set feasts of Jehovah, even holy convocations. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at even, is Jehovah's Passover. And if you recall, Christ was crucified just before Passover. On the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And in the first day, you shall have a holy convocation. And you shall offer an offering made by fire unto Jehovah 7 days. Verse 9. And Jehovah spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say unto them, When you have come into the land which I give to you, and shall reap the harvest, then you shall bring the sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. And he shall wave the sheaf before Jehovah to be accepted for you. In the day when you wave the sheaf, you shall offer a he-lamb without blemish, a year old, for a burnt offering unto Jehovah. And the meal offering shall be 2/10 parts of an ephah of fine flour mingled with oil. And the drink offering shall be of wine, the 4th part of a hin. So, on the first day following the Sabbath, the Jewish people were to bring a wave offering before the priest as an offering to God of the first part of the harvest and of the fields that they had sown. In Israel, they really have 2 harvests. They have an early harvest in the spring and the main harvest in the fall. Christ was raised early in the morning of Sunday. If you look at the 3 days and 3 nights need, then he was really crucified on Thursday afternoon. Thursday afternoon was 1 part of a day, Friday and Saturday 2 days, and early Sunday another part of a day, 3 days. Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night, 3 nights. Because the Passover occurred as a high holy day on a Friday, the day before the normal Passover on the Saturday. And Christ was raised from the dead before sunrise on Sunday. What he did, he was the first fruits of those who were raised from the dead. He was the official wave offering to God to be accepted as a pro-runner of the harvest. And if you look at Matthew 27, it says that on that day, that the graves were opened. Many people say that when Christ was crucified, the graves were opened. But the Bible actually says that the graves were opened, but no one came out of the graves until the day of resurrection, which was the first harvest. Christ, when he was 3 days in the grave, also preached to those people, to those prisoners, to those souls that were in Sheol, and took them with him back to heaven. That and the graves that were opened were the first harvest. But the fact that he was accepted, this was an acceptable sacrifice, means that the rest of us, the rest harvest, is going to come in the fall when Christ returns. It says for the Feast of First Fruits that you need a sacrifice of a he-lamb without blemish. Christ was that lamb.
Yes.
You need barley and wheat, the bread, and you need wine, the three elements of communion,
Yes.
the bread and the wine, to commemorate the sacrifice of Christ.
Yes.
Back in Leviticus, hundreds of years before Christ was born, this was recognized as being the time of year and the situation in which the crucifixion and resurrection would take place. Something to think about.